Captains for Kent State this week will be Devin Johnson and Reeves on offense, and Taj Lepman and DJ Hunter on defense. And of course, anytime again as you go on the road, you got to have great leadership from your entire team. So, got a lot of guys that got to step up and do a great job in that role. Kent State, talking about Kent State, I guess you got to start with their defense. I mean, they play two Big Ten teams, one of the top three defenses in the country right now, giving up 1.9 yards per rush. People are converting third downs at a 20% rate, so they're playing extremely well on defense. Paul Haynes has them playing extremely hard. If you go back and watch Kent State, they hadn't won a lot of games in the last couple of years, but if you go back and even watch the Bowling Green game last year, which was about the 11th game of the year, I think, or somewhere in that vicinity, and watch how hard that team plays. And he's got them playing extremely hard, and they feel good about themselves, and so it's going to be a great challenge for us. And we're going to make sure we got a great week of preparation as always, and go there and be ready to play a fired-up football team that's Mid-American Conference has gone into a lot of arenas, and a lot of people have gone into their arenas and been very successful this year. So if that doesn't wake us up and know what we're getting into, then nothing will.
This season, both you and Kent State have been victimized by penalties pretty much. How important is it, especially to have a better focus on the road this week?
Well, if you take a look at penalties, and there's been a lot of teams that won national titles, and a lot of good football teams that are penalized quite a bit for aggressive penalties. And now there's also some penalties out there that are not smart penalties that you got to correct. But I mean, if you take, we've had some. What the heck's going on right there? But there's been some penalties out there. The crazy dumb penalties you can fix, and they need to be fixed. Blocking the backs and some bad decisions here and there. But we've been pretty clean with the exception down at Ohio U. So we work hard on that, and we got to make sure we go in there and do the best we can not to have. I don't mind the aggressive penalties. You're going to get a hold called every now and then. You can live with that, but you can't live with unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and penalties that you can control.
Following up that, last three trips to MAC stadiums, you've been flagged 45 times. Is there a different style of officiating?
I really don't want to get into officiating, to be honest. I mean, there's no doubt that conferences call things different ways. I mean, you can get into, and they do, unfortunately. So, now, that being said, we have Conference USA officials there Saturday, so they'll be consistent and calm, hopefully, the way that the game gets officiated in Conference USA. So, that's a good thing.
Some of the players yesterday talked about the different things they'll try to show you on defense. Could you
Yeah.
go into that a little bit?
Well, defensively, they're all over the place, and I mean that in a positive way. I mean they're very aggressive. They blitz you. They do an awful lot of blitzing and getting after it. They bring different players from a lot of different areas, and they play extremely hard. So you got to know where they're lined up. You got to identify them. They play a lot of 3-down stuff. They mix in some 4-down. There's some bear defenses, and they're doing a lot of different things. But they've played extremely well on defense. They went to Minnesota, who just about beat TCU and had a shot at winning that game. And so, it's important that Illinois is a little bit misleading. I think Illinois had the ball 10 to 11 times on Kent State's side of the 50 with some field position deals. But we'll have our hands full with that defense. We got to do a good job this week in preparation so we can identify and get them blocked.
Seeing on their depth chart, they've got a Leo, might be a hybrid end quarterback or end linebacker, and an Apache. And sounds like they run a lot of multiple formations.
Defensively?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of different personnel groupings that they'll do to match up with. They do a good job of matching their personnel with your personnel groupings. So there's a lot of different, a little bit like us, Doug, when we get as we get into our third down package with our joker package and our nickel package, and they have different packages that they use to match up against different personnel. So and they do a good job of doing that.
What's your thoughts on the quarterback this week?
Say it again.
Your thoughts on the quarterback situation this week?
Our quarterback situation. Litton right now is our starter. When Birdsong is able and ready to compete for that job, it'll be like any other job. He'll be able to compete for it. But if we had to play today, Litton would be our quarterback, and I'm sure he'll run out there with our first group today.
In terms of their offense, they put so many people out there, like 5 or 6 different receivers at a time, maybe on their depth chart, and running backs a lot as well. How does that put an onus on your defense to be aware of personnel out on the field at one point or another?
Well, what we have to do is our guys do a good job, our defensive coaches, knowing who their tailbacks are, who their receivers are, who their tight ends are. So, we identify their personnel by what actual position is running out on that field, whether he's a receiver, deep, whether he's a running back, or whether he's a tight end, a number of tight ends, a number of running backs, et cetera. So we'll match our defense up against their personnel groupings, and we'll be able to do that. But you're right, they play 4 or 5 different running backs. They play about 8 different receivers. They play a couple different tight ends. So they're rolling a lot of different personnel in there, and they're playing some young kids. They're playing 4 or 5 freshmen in there. Some of them are true freshmen. They took, if you take, for example, the Minnesota game, they took a shot with a true freshman. They ran reverse with a true freshman. So they're trying to get some playmakers I think they got some young freshmen that are playmakers and trying to get involved in the games. And that Minnesota game was a close game, so it wasn't a situation, like they were trying to get involved when the game didn't count.
A lot of new kids out on the field this Saturday for you. Talk about their play and in player interviews yesterday. A lot of guys were just talking about next guy up mentality, and everybody really stepped up.
I think I mentioned last week, if you look around the number of people that seems like there's more injuries this year than there's ever been. It's not just all around the country, and that's what has to happen. You got to get guys that step up. I know Tom Collins went in and played really well, for Van Horn and Addison on Saturday for us, and Dowry as a freshman is playing really well there at right guard. So, when somebody goes down, somebody else has to go in and play, and so far they've done a good job of doing that.
Kendall Gaines stepping up big.
Kendall Gaines did. I was glad to see that. He went in there and played for Taekwon and played well, and it's great when you see a kid get the opportunity that's why you never know when your number's called. You better be ready to go play, and so we've been able to, the last couple of years play a lot of young kids, and they've gone into those situations and had a lot of guys get their feet wet a little bit on Saturday, and at some point during the year we're going to need them.
Doc, does that change the mindset when kids come in now that, hey, you're not going to maybe automatically be redshirted, you got to be ready to go at any time?
Well, yeah, we didn't play a lot of true freshmen. I think we played one, but for the most part, those guys have been here, and but it's no doubt that they have to understand that you never know when you're going to have to go play, so you got to be prepared to go do that.
How did your offensive line, how did it come together on Saturday after watching the film with so many different guys that were on the starting group that weren't there through much of camp?
Yeah, well, I thought I thought they played well. I think other than, of course, Selby was in there, Swede was in there, Sandley was in there. Basically our right guard, our guys that have started, it's either been Dowry or Devers. Devers been banged up a little bit, so he didn't play much, but Cody Collins has played quite a bit for us. So, to be honest with you, other than Addison and Tom Collins at the right tackle position, those other guys have kind of were in place and played quite a bit. So, we've been able to roll some guys in, and Beno went in there and played some for the first time, the redshirt freshman at left tackle, and did some good things. So, anytime you can get those guys in there at some point during the year, just like a year ago, we're going to need them.
Pittman and Davis, your thoughts on their
I thought they played okay, played good. One thing about Pittman, you know what you're going to get. He's going to bring it now. He's going to give it everything he's got, and it's fun to watch him go out there and play and run. And I thought Keon Davis went in there and played well for the first time out. So, we're going to have to give those guys. I like to see them, last couple of drives there. I wish we could have got the ball to them a little more. We didn't, but they're going to have to play.
Doc, after Foster had a couple of bad catches, no catches on return.
Mm-hmm.
You put Reeves back there for a little bit. Is that something you might
Yes.
be leaning that way?
Yeah, number one, Reeves, we got to get him the ball. He's good with the ball in his hands, and he's playing his best football as a senior. And yeah, he'll catch punt Saturday. But and Heilig, the thing is, and then what that it's hard when the balls are getting punted 25 yards. But he's got to understand that. Let's just take the ball. The issue is get the ball back. And there's a lot of poison calls in there, which means get away from it. And he didn't do it. The first one, he did a good job going and catching it. The second one, he just got to get away from it. He didn't do a good job going and catching it because it put it on the ground. But the second one, he just got to get away from it. We'll take a 22-yard punt or wherever it was and go play ball. So he's a young guy. He's got to learn. And unfortunately or fortunately, in that situation, it doesn't cost you the game, because it can if you put that in a situation where the game's tight. So he'll learn. He'll be fine. He'll be all right.
One of the issues with Kent State's offense, they've had a lot of turnovers so far this year. As a defense, how do you kind of balance trying to force those turnovers, but also being disciplined in your coverage?
Well, when you play the defense that's called and you play extremely hard and aggressive, turnovers happen. And for example, Taj Letman is playing his best football right now just because of the way he executes the techniques. plays fundamentally sound football. He plays extremely hard, and turnovers have come his way. And when you play very aggressive defense and you get lined up and you play hard, you create turnovers and make things happen. And that's going to be critical in this game on Saturday. We have to follow the plan to win, which is take care of the ball and play great defense and score in the red zone and win the kicking game. And that's where it all starts. And hopefully our defense can create some turnovers.
His quarterback, third-year starter, I believe. It's kind of unfair to judge him on the 2 games against the Big Ten teams. And I take it y'all probably went back and watched some video of last year's games with him, right?
Yeah. We lost a lot of video from a year ago. And what you try to do is go back and watch games that teams are similar to you. Bowling Green, for example, is a game that's an offense that's a little bit similar to what we do. And Minnesota didn't do us a lot of good because they're not. They buckled up and they're 22 and 23 personnel. So you could try to go back and find games that you are similar to you on what you do offensively. But if you look at his total body of work, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the history of Kent State. I think if you go back and look at his stats over the period of time, so he's been successful and he's had a lot of success there, throwing the ball around. So, I think you got to look at his entire body of work and make a decision that there's no doubt he's good enough to beat you. And he's had a lot of success there. He's been there a while, and so we got to do a great job preparing for him.
As a coach that preaches physicality, do you get sort of excited for a matchup like this in which it's your offensive line, which is one of your all's staples, against their front 7, which is obviously their staple, giving up 1.9 yards?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, anytime you're playing a game like that, and about any game, about any game you play, it comes down to the guys up front. The physicalness of the defensive line versus their O-line, and our O-line versus their D-line, and they're a very physical football team, and we take pride that we are too. So I'm sure it's going to be a physical matchup. Paul Haynes again does a great job of coaching those guys. Dave McMichael does a great job. I've coached with Dave for 100 years, and he'll do a great job with that special teams, and they'll be well coached, and we got to make sure we are too.
You mentioned special teams, and that's an area that Tyler Williams, with his abilities, in a game like this, that can sort of flip the field pretty quickly.
Well, field position is so critical, and special teams can entirely, and we've done a good job with our kickoff team has done a good job of pinning them back with non-returnable kicks and doing a good job of covering when they are returnable. And our kickoff return, a little bit tough Saturday. We had the couple, one there, but of fielding the ball. But when the ball is kicked out of bounds, you get it to 35, and so our kickoff return team has won the field position battle as far as getting it out there. And there's no doubt the punt team, and Tyler, not only did he have a 67-yard punt, whatever that particular punt was, but there was a couple times there he put him down inside the 10, 11-yard line, which is to me that's as big as kicking a 67-yarder. So we've done a great job of flipping the field with our punt team. Even if you take a look at we don't have a lot of returns, but if you look at field position off of punt returns, they averaged about 22 to 26 yards net punt. Well, you still win that part of it. Even as ugly as it was the one time, you go back and look at how that changed field position. Our punt totally changed the field position. Their punt team did not a week ago because they netted less than 30. And so you're not going to get returns. You're not going to say, well, you didn't do a very good job returning punts. You couldn't get them. So that being said, I think that changing the field position within the kicking game, we've been able to do that, and there's no doubt that's going to be critical again.
An odd stat in here jumped out at me when I was looking through their numbers, and they're only converting 20% on third down, but they're converting nearly 50% on fourth down, and out of 15 times they've got it 7 times.
Yeah.
That's something as a defense, I don't know how you necessarily prepare for that. You got to love that third down number, but that fourth down number at least makes you think about it.
Well, they faked a couple punts against was it Delaware State? I think they played up there, had a couple of fake punts against Delaware State, and had some different fakes going in there. I mean, you need to go back too and look at how many of those were against Delaware State, and see where that was. But there's no doubt that you got to be able to get them stopped, of course, on fourth down too. But so if they're converting 20%, their defense is holding people to 20%, so they're doing a pretty good job. Anything else? Thanks, guys.